Rain hammered the cracked pavement of East Oakland like bullets against glass. Elise Warren's sneakers splashed through puddles as she walked the same route she'd walked for 3 years, 11 blocks from the nondescript office building where she filed documents nobody read, to the condemned apartment complex where nobody was supposed to live. Her umbrella had broken 2 weeks ago. She didn't buy another. The water soaked through her jacket, plastering her braids against her neck, but she didn't quicken her pace. 29 years old, and she moved like someone carrying invisible weight. Behind her, 60 feet back, Kwon Dae-sung sat in a black Mercedes with tinted windows, engine idling. His fingers drummed against the steering wheel, the only sign of tension beneath his perfectly pressed suit. He'd been following her for 2 weeks. Tonight, he would finally understand why his most reliable employee disappeared into the worst part of the city every night at exactly 6:47 p.m. Tonight, everything would change. Dae-sung had built an empire on patterns. People were predictable, their greed, their fear, their desperation. But Elise Warren didn't fit. 3 years in his company's administrative office, no questions, no mistakes, no personality. She processed paperwork that could send her to prison with the same efficiency she brought to everything else. She was invisible. 2 weeks ago, his head of security flagged an anomaly. Someone had accessed archived files from 2019, shipping routes to Seoul that only mattered if you understood what they really contained. Only 3 people had clearance. 2 were senior lieutenants Dae-sung trusted with his life. The third was Elise Warren. So he'd started watching. She wasn't meeting anyone, wasn't spending money she didn't have. Her bank account showed the same direct deposit, same small withdrawals, same automated payment for a studio apartment that should have been condemned. But every night, instead of going home, she walked. 11 blocks through territory controlled by gangs Dae-sung had bought off years ago, past liquor stores with bars on the windows, and abandoned lots where people sold what the city's elite pretended didn't exist. And then she disappeared into a building that shouldn't exist. The Anderson Heights apartment complex had been slated for demolition in 2021. The city had relocated tenants, cut power, posted notices, except it wasn't empty. Generators hummed. Shadows moved behind broken blinds. People lived there, dozens of them. And every night Elise Warren walked inside and didn't come out until after midnight. Tonight, he would know why. Dae-sung waited 15 minutes after she entered. The rain had softened to drizzle, turning the street into a study in grey and black. He got out of the Mercedes, leaving his jacket behind. The white shirt beneath was custom-tailored, imported from Seoul. He left the top 4 buttons undone. The tattoo wrapping around his throat and down his collarbone was meant to be seen, a phoenix rising from flames, rendered in traditional Korean style. His father had beaten him unconscious when he'd gotten it at 19, but the old man was dead now, and Dae-sung wore their legacy on his skin. He found the side door Elise had used. It wasn't locked. Inside, the smell hit first, mildew and rust, but underneath something else. Cooking, rice and vegetables, the scent of poverty and survival. Voices drifted from above, children laughing, a woman singing in Spanish. He followed the light, a dim glow from what used to be the community room. He heard her voice before he saw her. "I know it's not much, but it'll keep you warm." Dae-sung stopped at the doorway, staying in shadow. The room was lit by battery-powered lanterns hanging from hooks. Sleeping bags covered the floor in organized rows. A camping stove heated soup. Boxes lined one wall, canned goods, diapers, medicine. And in the center, Elise knelt beside an elderly man, tucking a blanket around his shoulders. She'd changed clothes. Grey slacks and cardigan replaced by worn jeans and a Howard University sweatshirt. Her braids pulled back, and without her work armor she looked younger, human. "Ms. Elise, you shouldn't spend your money on us," the old man said. "Mr. Patterson, we've talked about this." Her tone was gentle but firm. "You worked construction for 40 years. You built half this city. The least it can do is keep you warm." Liar, Dae-sung thought. He'd seen her bank account. She had 247s, 63 in savings. A child, maybe 6 years old with hair in 2 puffs tied with pink ribbons, ran up and wrapped arms around her legs. "You came back," Elise scooped the girl up. "I always come back, Naomi. Did you finish your homework?" "Mama helped me, but we used the last pencil." "That's okay, I brought more." Elise reached into her canvas tote and pulled out pencils, notebooks, crayons. For you and the other kids. Naomi's face lit up like she'd received diamonds. Dae-sung's phone buzzed. He ignored it. He watched as Elise made her way through the room. She knew their names, knew their stories, checked on a pregnant woman's ankles, complimented a teenager's haircut, helped a man in a wheelchair adjust his brake. This wasn't charity. This was care. The phone buzzed again. 3 times. The code for urgent. He pulled it out. Text from Jin Ho, his second-in-command. Federal audit tomorrow. Need your signature tonight. Where are you? Dae-sung typed back. 20 minutes. But he didn't move, because Elise had walked to a corner where a young woman, 19, maybe 20, sat crying, trying not to wake the baby in a portable crib beside her. Shanice, what happened? The factory cut my hours. The girl's voice broke. I can't feed her. Elise sat beside her, just present. Then quietly, how much do you need? 200, just until my next check, but I can't. Elise pulled out her wallet, handed Shanice $200 bills. You'll pay it forward when you can. Shanice stared at the money. That's all you have until payday. I'll manage. I always do. Dae-sung turned off his phone. He watched for another hour. Watched Elise distribute medication she'd clearly paid for herself. Fix a broken heater with duct tape. Read stories to children who should have been in real homes. She worked until her hands shook. When she finally left, close to midnight, he followed her to an all-night diner 3 blocks away. She ordered coffee, black, no sugar, and pulled out a worn Toni Morrison book. She read the same page 3 times before giving up and staring at rain. Dae-sung sat in his car across the street and felt something crack open in his chest. He ran an empire built on violence, owned restaurants where people paid $400 for dinner, generated millions in profit every quarter. And this woman spent every cent keeping strangers alive. His phone vibrated, Jin Ho calling. Where the hell are you? I'll be there in 30 minutes. The feds. I know. Get the documents ready. What's wrong with you tonight? Everything, Dae-sung thought. Nothing. He hung up. Across the street, Elise stood, left exact change plus a $5 tip she couldn't afford, and walked into rain. Dae-sung started the engine. But instead of following, instead of signing papers that would protect his empire, he sat in darkness and asked himself a question he'd never allowed before. What was the point of power if this was what the world looked like? Text from Jin Ho. If you don't get here in 20 minutes, we're fucked. Dae-sung looked at Elise's retreating figure, then at the condemned building where dozens of forgotten people slept. He thought about the $247 in her account. He thought about the $200 she'd given away. 20 minutes later, he walked into his office. Jin Ho was pacing. Finally, sign here. Clear my schedule tomorrow. Jin Ho froze. What? Everything. And get me property records for Anderson Heights apartment complex. Who owns it? Who's trying to buy it? Demolition timeline? Why do you care about a condemned building? Dae-sung met his eyes. Because someone I know does. He signed the documents, his signature precise and controlled, but his hands shook, just slightly. 3 days later, Elise found an envelope on her desk. Her name in handwriting she didn't recognize, precise, almost mechanical. Inside was a check for $10,000. No note, no explanation. She called HR. The check was legitimate, drawn on the company's primary account. Who signed it? Silence. Then, Mr. Kwon. The phone nearly slipped from her hand. That evening she did something she'd never done in 3 years. She knocked on Kwon Dae-sung's office door. Come in. The office was exactly what she'd expected. Floor-to-ceiling windows, furniture worth more than she made in a year, museum-quality art, cold and perfect, except for the man behind the desk. Dae-sung looked up, and surprise flickered across his face. He wore a white shirt, top buttons undone, sleeves rolled to his elbows. The phoenix tattoo at his throat was visible, wings spread as if in flight. Ms. Warren, this is unexpected. She held up the check. I can't accept this. Why not? Because I didn't earn it. You've worked here 3 years without error. I'd say you've earned it. This isn't a performance bonus. He leaned back. How do you know? Because you signed it yourself. Silence stretched between them. You're right. It's not a bonus. Then what is it? An investment. In what? In something that matters. Elise's jaw tightened. You don't know what matters to me, don't I? The question hung like a challenge. Her heart hammered. He couldn't know. I don't need charity, Mr. Kwon. I'm not offering charity. He stood, moving around the desk with absolute confidence. Anderson Heights apartment complex. 63 residents living without heat, running water or legal electricity. Scheduled for demolition in 4 months. No relocation plan because officially nobody lives there. Blood turned to ice. How do you... I know you've spent 3 years keeping those people alive. I know you spend 90% of your salary on food, medicine, and fuel. I know you haven't bought yourself new clothes in 18 months, that you walk to work because you can't afford bus fare, and Mr. Patterson's diabetes medication. He stopped 3 feet away. I know you give away money you don't have because you can't watch people suffer. Each word landed like a blow. You've been following me. I've been watching you. There's a difference. Not from where I'm standing. Her voice shook, but she didn't back down. You had no right. You're correct. I didn't. The admission surprised her. Then why? Because you accessed files you shouldn't have. Because my security flagged you as a potential threat. Because in my world, people who act outside patterns end up dead or in prison. So this is what? A test? No. He reached into his desk, pulled out a folder. This is an offer. She didn't touch it. I don't want anything from you. Look anyway. Against her judgment, she opened it. Property deed, Anderson Heights. Owner, Kwon Dae-sung. Effective immediately. What is this? I bought the building this morning. The city was selling to a developer for luxury condos. I paid him twice his offer. Her vision blurred. Why? Because you were right. I don't know what matters to you, but I'm trying to learn. She searched his face for the trap. What do you want in return? Nothing. Nobody gives away a building for nothing. I'm not giving it away, I'm investing. He gestured to the folder. Page 3. She turned to it. A proposal. Full renovation. New heating, plumbing, electrical. Legal residential status restored. Tenants stay rent-free for 5 years. Estimated cost $2, $3 million. This is insane. It's practical. I own 17 properties in Oakland. 1 more won't bankrupt me. That's not what I mean. She set the folder down. You're a criminal. Yes. The bluntness startled her. You hurt people. Yes. You profit from suffering. Yes. He met her eyes unflinching. I've spent 15 years building an empire that runs on fear and blood. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I'm asking you to let me do one thing that isn't that. Her throat tightened. Why me? Because I watched you give away money you needed to survive. Because I saw you care for strangers like family. Because I've spent my life surrounded by people who would sell their children for profit, and you reminded me that's not normal. He held out the deed. I don't want to run this. I don't want credit. I want you to have resources to do what you've been doing except properly, with heat, with safety, with hope. And if I say no, then I'll still renovate it, but my way, efficient and cold. The tenants will be safe but not cared for, not the way you care. You're manipulating me. Yes, is it working? Despite everything, she felt something close to a laugh. You're honest? I'll give you that. Lies are inefficient. She took the deed. I have conditions. Name them. No one gets displaced, not one person. Even after 5 years, they stay. Agreed. You don't get publicity. No press, no charity write-ups, nothing with your name. Done. And you stay away from Anderson Heights. You don't visit. You don't send people to check. You give me resources and let me work. Something like disappointment crossed his features before he controlled it. If that's what you want, it is. Then we have an agreement. He extended his hand. She looked at it. At the tattoo. At the man who'd just handed her the impossible. She took his hand. His grip was firm, warm. One more thing, she said, not letting go. What? The files I accessed. Shipping routes from 2019. I was looking for records of a man who worked in the warehouse. His daughter is at Anderson Heights. She asked me to find out what happened to him. His expression went neutral. What was his name? Marcus Chen, Chinese-American, early 40s, disappeared 3 years ago. Silence. He's alive, living in South Korea with a new identity. He stole from people more dangerous than me. I helped him disappear before they could kill him. Her breath caught. Can I tell his daughter? No. If she knows, she'll try to contact him. If she tries, they'll find him. So she thinks her father abandoned her. She lives. That's what he wanted. The weight settled between them. Impossible choices. Invisible scars. She released his hand. Your world is darker than I thought. And yours is brighter. Maybe that's why I can't stop thinking about it. She should have left. Instead, what's your story? What made you this way? That's not a conversation for a Thursday evening in an office. Then when? The question surprised them both. He looked at her, really looked, past the mask to whoever she was underneath. Tomorrow night, 7 p.m., Korean restaurant in Temescal called Halmoni's Kitchen. Best bibimbap in the East Bay. Have dinner with me. Is that an order? It's an invitation. You can say no. I'll think about it. Fair enough. She turned to leave, reached the door. Miss Warren? Yes? Thank you for letting me try. She left without answering. She went to the restaurant. Halmoni's Kitchen was small, warm, smelled like home, though not any home she'd known. The owner greeted Dae-sung in Korean, her face lighting up as she hugged him like a son. He responded in the same language, then switched to English to introduce Elise. Mrs. Park, this is Elise Warren. Elise, Mrs. Park has been feeding me since I was 16. The old woman swatted his arm. You were never too proud to eat, just too stubborn. She turned to Elise, eyes sharp. First woman he's brought here in 8 years. You must be special. Mrs. Park, I'm old. I can say what I want. She patted Elise's hand. He's difficult but worth it. Now sit. They sat at a corner table. Dae-sung ordered in Korean, dishes Elise didn't recognize but trusted. You come here often? 3 times a week. Mrs. Park's husband sponsored my father when he immigrated. Gave him his first job apartment chance. He paused. My father repaid them by stealing their life savings and disappearing. She blinked. You're joking. I wish. When I found out I was 19 working construction, took me 4 years to pay them back every cent plus interest. That's why she treats you like family. That's why I owe her everything. He looked up as Mrs. Park returned with small dishes of kimchi, pickled vegetables, seasoned bean sprouts. She taught me that honor isn't about blood, it's about choice. They ate in comfortable silence. The food was incredible, complex flavors telling stories Elise didn't have words for. This is amazing. Wait until you try the bulgogi. When main dishes arrived, he showed her how to assemble the perfect bite. Rice, meat, vegetables, gochujang wrapped in lettuce. The explosion of flavor made her close her eyes. That's unfair. How am I supposed to eat regular food after this? He smiled, actually smiled, transforming his face. Mrs. Park's secret is she cooks with Han. Han? Korean concept, roughly. Collective grief. Historical pain that becomes part of your soul. She lost her son 20 years ago. She puts that sorrow into her food, and somehow it becomes beautiful. Elise set down her chopsticks. That's the saddest and most poetic thing I've ever heard. Korea is complicated. Beauty and pain, honor and shame, all mixed until you can't separate them. He refilled her water. What about you? What's your Han? That's not a first date question. This isn't a date, it's a negotiation of understanding. That's the most corporate way to describe dinner I've ever heard. Would you prefer I call it a date? The question hung, waited. I don't date criminals, Elise said. Fair. I don't date employees. So we're at an impasse. Seems like it. They looked at each other, both trying not to smile. Tell me anyway, and he said, You're Han. She picked up her chopsticks, buying time. My mother was a nurse, worked double shifts at a public hospital in Detroit trying to save for my college. One night, walking to her car after 16 hours, 2 guys jumped her for her purse. She fought back. She didn't need to finish. They took $73 and left her bleeding. She died before the ambulance arrived. How old were you? 17, senior year. And after. Foster care until I aged out. Worked 3 jobs through community college. Dropped out after a year because I couldn't afford both rent and tuition. She met his eyes. I survived. But I never forgot what it feels like to be invisible, to be someone the world thinks it can throw away. That's why Anderson Heights. He was quiet. Your mother would be proud. You didn't know her. I know her daughter, that's enough. Something cracked in Elise's chest, a wall fracturing. Your turn. What's your story? My grandfather was Yakuza in Japan. My father immigrated to escape that legacy, but you can't outrun blood. When money ran out and jobs dried up, he went back to the only thing he knew. His jaw tightened. He was small-time, ran numbers, sold stolen goods, got himself killed when I was 15. I'm sorry, don't be. He beat my mother until she couldn't remember how to smile. When he died, she threw a party. Elise's heart ached. And you? I was angry, at him for being weak, at her for staying, at a world that ground people down until crime seemed like the only choice. He turned his water glass in slow circles. So I decided if I was going to be a criminal, I'd be successful. Built connections, made myself useful until I was indispensable. By 25, I ran the Korean networks in Northern California. No regrets? Thousands. But regret doesn't change the past, only the future. Mrs. Park returned with dessert, sweet rice cakes and cinnamon tea. She looked between them with knowing eyes. You two talk like people carrying heavy things. Put them down sometimes. After she left, Elise laughed softly. She's wise. She's meddlesome, but yes, wise. They finished in comfortable silence. When the check came, he paid despite protests. You can buy next time. Who says there'll be a next time? Hope. Foolish, probably. But hope. Outside, the Oakland night was cool and clear. He walked her to her car, a 15-year-old Honda held together with prayer. He looked at it, then at her. The check includes a budget for personal expenses. I know. You could buy a car that starts reliably. This one starts, eventually. Elise. The use of her first name made her pulse quicken. You're allowed to take care of yourself. I survive. That's taking care. That's not the same thing. She unlocked her car. The engine turned over twice before catching. Through the window, he said, I meant what I told you, about staying away from Anderson Heights. If you don't want me involved, I'll respect that. She looked up at this complicated, dangerous, surprisingly gentle man. Maybe you could visit, once, see what you're investing in. Surprise and something deeper, gratitude. I'd like that. Saturday, 2 p.m., bring work gloves. Understood. She started to roll up the window, then stopped. Dae-sung? Yes? This isn't a date. Of course not. But if it was, it would have been a good one. She drove away before seeing his reaction, but in her rearview mirror, she caught him standing in the parking lot, hand pressed against his chest. Saturday came wrapped in October sunshine. Elise arrived at Anderson Heights to find controlled chaos. Heating contractor mapping ductwork, electrician assessing wiring, plumbers testing pressure. Mr. Patterson sat in his wheelchair giving advice. Young man, that junction box won't support the load. Trust me. I installed the original in 1987. The electrician listened. Elise was helping Naomi's mother fill out job applications when she heard commotion outside. Black Mercedes, tinted windows. The kids ran to windows. Who's that? Is that a real Mercedes? Dae-sung stepped out wearing jeans, actual jeans, grey t-shirt, work boots. The white button-down was gone, but the tattoo was visible. He looked normal, almost. Until the contractor recognized him and went pale. Mr. Kwon, I didn't... Relax, Julio, I'm not here about Fruitvale. I'm here to help. Julio blinked. You're what? Elise stepped outside. He's volunteering. I hope you brought gloves. He held them up, as ordered. The next 4 hours was surreal. Kwon Dae-sung, who ran a criminal empire, spent the afternoon carrying donation boxes up 3 flights. He helped Mr. Patterson repair the wheelchair brake. He played soccer with kids who had no idea who he was. He let Naomi paint his nails purple because she asked nicely. And through it all he listened to stories about lost jobs and eviction notices, about medical bills and broken dreams. He didn't offer solutions, didn't try to fix everything with money. He just listened. Shanice, the young mother Elise had helped, approached him hesitantly while he hung curtains. You're the person Miss Elise works for. I am. She said you bought the building. That you're fixing it. She's fixing it. I'm providing resources. Why? He set down the curtain rod. Because someone I respect asked me to, and because it's the right thing to do. But you're, she stopped, a criminal. He said it, matter-of-factly. Yes, I've done terrible things to terrible people. I won't insult you by denying it. Then why this? Because knowing you've done wrong and choosing to keep doing it are different things. I can't undo my past. But I can try to build a different future. Shanice studied him. My baby's father is in prison, 10 years for a crime he committed trying to feed us. The world told him he didn't matter until that became truth. I know. Do you? My father died face down in an alley over $800. My mother cleaned houses for 20 years and died owning nothing. I know what it means to be discarded. He met her eyes. That doesn't excuse my choices, but it explains them. And maybe understanding is the first step towards something better. She nodded slowly. Ms. Elise believes in you. That's enough for me. Later, Dae-sung found Elise organizing donated books in the community room. They worked in companionable silence. Does it bother you? She asked eventually. What you've built? Every day. Then why not leave? Because leaving doesn't erase it. The networks exist with or without me. At least with me there are rules, lines that don't get crossed. That's a rationalization. I know, but it's also true. So you're trapped. Aren't we all? He shelved the bluest eye. You're trapped by compassion. I'm trapped by consequence. Different cages, but we're both behind bars. She turned to face him. You could change. Really change. I'm a felon, multiple times over. I've ordered violence, overseen illegal operations, corrupted officials. There's no coming back from that. But the best I can do is minimize harm, run things cleaner, make sure people who work for me have healthcare and fair wages. And sometimes when someone like you reminds me what goodness looks like, try to balance the scales. That's not enough. I know. A child's laugh drifted in, Naomi playing in sunlight. She's happy, he said softly. Today. Tomorrow, who knows? That's life. We do what we can with the time we have. The moment shattered when Jin-ho appeared in the doorway, face grim. We have a problem. Dae-sung's demeanor shifted instantly. Gentle man replaced by someone harder, colder. What kind? Lee Min-jae kind. The name meant nothing to Elise, but his expression told her everything. When? He hit 3 warehouses tonight, took $500,000 in product. Casualties. 2 hospitalized. 1 critical. His jaw tightened. Give me 5 minutes. Jin-ho's gaze slid to Elise. We need to move now. 5 minutes. Jin-ho left. You have to go, Elise said. Yes. This is your world. Yes. He looked lost. I don't want you part of it. I want you safe from it. But I'm not separate, not anymore. I can protect. I don't want protection. I want... She stopped. Unsure. A life that made sense. A world where caring didn't mean compromising everything. A man who was gentle with children and didn't order violence in the same breath. An impossibility. Go. Your people need you. He pulled off the work gloves. I'll call when it's handled. Don't. This isn't... We're not... I work for you. You invested in a project, that's all. Is it? It has to be. He nodded, accepting the boundary, but as he turned, she caught his arm. Be careful. Always. I'm serious. Won't touch you. I promise. He covered her hand. You're separate from this. He left before she could argue. Through the window, she watched him get into the Mercedes, watched Jin-ho hand him something, probably a gun, watched the volunteer slip away, replaced by the mafia boss, watched him disappear into a world she couldn't follow. Naomi ran up, purple nail polish in hand. Where did Mr. Dae-sung go? He had to work, sweetie. But he promised to paint his other hand. Maybe next time. When's next time? Elise looked at fading taillights. I don't know, baby. 3 days passed with no word. On the 4th day, her office filled with flowers. Dozens of arrangements. Roses, orchids, lilies, all purple. The card, Naomi's favorite color. Thank you for Saturday. DK. That evening, a knock on her apartment door. Dae-sung stood in the hallway, still in his work shirt, tie loosened. He looked exhausted. Can I come in?" She stepped aside. Her studio was small, barely room for a bed, desk, tiny kitchen, but clean, carefully maintained. Books everywhere. He sat on the bed's edge because there was nowhere else. I handled it. Lee Min-jae won't be a problem. Did anyone die? No, but close. And you're okay? Physically, yes. Silence. I spent 15 years building walls so thick nothing could touch me, he said finally. Then I watched you give away money you needed, and every wall cracked open. Dae-sung, I'm not good for you, I know that. My world is dangerous and dark. But when I'm at Anderson Heights, when I'm with you, I remember what it feels like to be human. Not a weapon, not a monster, just human. Her throat tightened. That's not fair. I know. You can't put that on me. I can't save you. I'm not asking you to save me. I'm asking you to let me try to save myself, and to help me remember why that matters. By doing what? By letting me be part of this. Anderson Heights. Not as an investor, but as someone who cares. You'll still be running your empire. Yes. I can't undo that overnight. Maybe never. But I can start making different choices, pulling back from the worst of it, building legitimate businesses. He met her eyes. It won't erase my past. But it might create a different future. And if you can't, if violence pulls you back, then I'll let you go, completely. I'll fund Anderson Heights through a trust so you never have to see me. But I'm asking for a chance. She walked to the window. My mother used to say broken people can't fix each other, that you have to be whole to build something that lasts. Your mother was wise. She was. But she was also wrong. Elise turned back. People aren't puzzles with missing pieces. We're all broken differently. Maybe the question isn't about being whole. Maybe it's about finding someone whose breaks fit with yours. Hope flared in his eyes. Is that what you think we are? I think you terrify me. I think your world is everything I hate. I think getting involved with you is probably the worst decision I could make. But I've watched you play soccer with kids who have nothing. I've seen you listen to people nobody else hears. I've seen you try, even when it costs you. She crossed to him. I think you're broken, but I think you're trying. And maybe that's enough. He stood, closing the distance. If I do this, if I really try, it won't be quick, won't be clean. There will be setbacks and days where I'm more monster than man. I know. And you're willing to stay? I'm willing to try. That's all I can promise. He raised his hand, touching her face. His palm was warm. That's more than I deserve. Who said anything about deserve? This is about choice. Then I choose you, if you'll have me. She covered his hand with hers. I choose you too, God help us both. He kissed her, gentle, tentative. She kissed back, fierce, certain. Outside, Oakland hummed. Inside, two broken people held each other and dared to hope that broken could become beautiful. 6 months later, Anderson Heights had heat, water, and legal electricity. The residents threw a party. Dae-sung arrived in jeans and a purple t-shirt. Naomi had decided he was her uncle, and nothing could convince her otherwise. Uncle Dae-sung, watch me. He watched her perform a dance routine she'd practiced for weeks. Elise stood beside him, hand in his, marveling at how natural this had become. I pulled out of the drug trade, he told her later on the rooftop, watching sunset over Oakland. Transferred operations to a cousin in Seattle. He'll run them until they phase out. That's a start. It's not enough, I know. No, but it's something. She leaned against his shoulder. And something is how change begins. Below, music drifted up. Laughter and conversation. The sound of people building lives. I love you, he said quietly. I know. Does that terrify you? Every day. But you're staying? Every day. He kissed the top of her head, and for the first time in his life, Kwon Dae-sung believed redemption might be possible, not through grand gestures, but through choice, day by day, together.